Hey, welcome to the Nuts and Bolts with Tone. Today we're going to talk about this 3.0 Eco Diesel. So what I found was there isn't a whole lot of information on this timing chain setup, and it's kind of different. It doesn't have any colored links or anything like that for the timing. So what you got to do is when you take it apart, basically you just rip it all apart. And the way that you do it is you start off with this toolkit here. We got this one here. This one's a lot cheaper. It's an aftermarket one. So you got to start off and you got to bring your engine, I believe it's 30 degrees after top dead center. And you start off with this tool right here. So what you got to do is over here on the starter side, way down there, there's a plug. It's got an Allen. You take the plug out and you roll this tool in. You tighten these threads up all the way. Then you tighten this tool in, and if this tool goes all the way in and it seats all the way up, you know you have your engine where they want it to be seated. That locks in the crank. So once you lock in the crank, you take these two guys here. You got this tool here, and it's going to sit here on top of the head. Come around here, show you. So you have these holes right here. Okay, so these two cams are gear to gear driven. Okay, and once you have your engine in the right spot, if it's in the right spot, then this tool here will slide into these holes. Okay, when it slides into these holes, you lock it down. You got a bolt here. Okay, and this bolt's going to go in here, and this bolt's going to go in here. Now, I've already put the timing chain back on, so it's not completely right where it needs to be. However, it's the same thing. So, you're going to take this tool, you're going to put it there. You're going to come over here, and you're going to get the tool that goes on the other side, and they only go one way. They're different. See, the tools are different. So, you're going to put this one, this side, and you're going to lock it in the same way. Okay? So the cams, they have this hole, and the hole is designed to lock in those two cams. Once you've done that, and you have your crank locked in, then you take your timing cover off. Now, the tricky part about this timing system is that this cam sprocket here, and this cam sprocket here, that ride the chain, they are free floating on the cams. They don't index to the cams. So, on the front of this cam here, you have a gear in there. You can see the bottom of that gear. Okay, well that gear right there is for the high pressure fuel pump. And that gear is indexed to the cam. You come over here on this side, and you have the same type of thing, except for on this side, there is the cam sensor pickup here, and the cam sensor pickup is also indexed to the cam. So once you've loosened those up, take your cams off, okay, and your cams can sit. You don't have to do anything with the crank sprocket because your engine is locked. Your crank is locked back there. So once you take it all apart and you've done whatever job you're doing, whether you're doing a timing chain, you're doing tensioners, you're doing heads, this one we're doing heads on. So once you've got everything done that you're going to do, you put your heads back on, got your new timing components, whatever you're going to do. Basically, you start with this side, and the procedure is going to have you lay your timing chain down here on the crank sprocket. You're going to bring it up here, and you're going to set it loosely on this cam sprocket. You're going to slide the cam sprocket on the cam. Then you're going to take your cam pickup, and you're going to index it to the cam, and you're going to run it in finger tight. Okay? Then you're going to come over here and you're going to put your fixed timing chain tensioner, your timing chain guide right here. Okay, you're going to slip that one in. Then on this side, you're going to come over here and you're going to put your swinging tensioner guide. And this one's for the tensioner. Okay, then you got your tensioner. Now this kit here, it comes with the pins. And the pins, when you're taking it apart, you're going to push your tensioner all the way in, and you're going to slide this little pin in the tensioner that keeps the tensioner all the way in. Now the tensioner plunger can come out and you'll lose your spring if you don't compress it and put the pin in before you take it apart. Now, once you're putting it back together, you've got your pin and your tensioner, okay? And you've got your chain. Up here, you got your guide, your chain. It's sitting on here, okay? Now, what you gotta do, since your cams are locked back here, the tool is locked, you're gonna torque this sprocket to spec, okay? And that's gonna lock this free-floating sprocket onto the cam because of the cam sensor pickup, which is indexed. Then, you're gonna pull the pin on your tensioner, this side's locked. Now, you're gonna come over here to this side, and now remember I said there's no colored links on the timing chain because there is no timing marks. It's all based on locking the engine and putting everything where it needs to be. Now you're gonna come over here and you're gonna do exactly the same thing. You're gonna set your timing chain on your crank, you're gonna bring it up here, you're gonna put it on your sprocket, you're gonna put your fixed timing chain guide on, then you're gonna put your floating timing chain guide on. Now if your tensioner never left the car, you've got your pin in, keeping it depressed, all right? And now you're gonna put your high pressure fuel pump gear on, and it's indexed, so you're gonna index it right, finger tight the bolt, okay? Then you're gonna torque it because you got your tool here. The tool is here locking these two cams so they can't move. The tool keeps them where they need to be. You're gonna torque this gear, which is going to torque this sprocket to the cam and lock it down, even though it's a free floating sprocket. You're gonna come down here and you're gonna pull your pin. Now, your timing chain is on and your timing chain is where it needs to be. So now all you need to do is go over here. You're gonna pull out your tool. You're gonna pull out your tool. You're gonna put them back in the box. You're gonna come down here and you're gonna take your crank pin back out, put your plug in, okay? Put some blue Loctite on there, lock it down. And then from there, you're gonna put your new crank seal, reseal your timing cover with Mopar silicone, and you're gonna torque everything down. Then you're gonna put your vacuum pump on, you're gonna put your water pump on if you took it off. You got your PCV, you're gonna put all these components back on and you're gonna be putting it back together. Now this engine here has what's called triple square. So if you're doing the heads, these bolts here, they look like a funny Torx, but they're not. They're actually a triple square and they're a special socket and they look something like this. Like that right there. Okay? So that is how you do the timing chain on this engine. Now when you take it apart, it's very, very misleading because you don't really know how to take it apart because you don't know what to loosen. You would think that you would leave these sprockets tight to the cams because you want the timing to be where it needs to be. However, we're not doing that because everything is locked in with tools, no colored links. So that is how you time this engine, and that is how taking it apart makes it much easier. Now again, this is the 3.0 Eco Diesel. So we still have to put it back together. Now there's one other little trick with this engine. One other special tool that they require. So to take this intake manifold off, you have to take the fuel rails off. And to take the fuel rails off, there's very little clearance between the intake and the fuel rails. So instead of buying a Chrysler tool set, you can get one of these, which is what I have. So what I ended up doing was I had a set of Torx that looks like this. Okay, they've got just a little angle on them, right? Well, that little angle there gives you just enough clearance between the intake and the fuel rail to get the bolts out. There's very, very little clearance. And according to the procedures, they want you to use a special tool, which is a little tiny bit and a special bar to put the bit in. So like I said, this is what I used. It works great. It's gonna be awesome to put back together. Hope this helped you out on this 3.0 Chrysler Eco Diesel. And we'll come back to you next time with another video. Thanks for watching Nuts and Bolts with Tone.